The winter of 1868 cast a seemingly endless, chilling gray over London. From the sloping rooftops to the rain-soaked cobblestone streets, the entire city was shrouded in a thick fog. Every morning, the church bells rang out, mingling with the sound of horse hooves and the steam engines of the train stations, creating the familiar sounds of an empire entering its golden age. But behind this bustling rhythm, thousands of families lived quietly in their old houses, where memories and stories never faded. In a 3-story house near Russell Square, the Harrison family had endured nearly a year without laughter. The mother had died after a sudden illness, leaving behind her husband and 3 children too young to fully understand the meaning of the loss. The house remained intact, every item, every picture on the wall, every book on the shelf, but the warmth of the family seemed to have vanished with the woman who had cared for everything with all her heart. The father, Edward Harrison, had once been a traveling merchant who frequently journeyed throughout Europe. After the incident, he refused all trips. Contracts were put on hold. Letters from business partners piled up on his desk. He spent most of his time gazing out at the misty garden behind the house without saying a word. He understood that his children were also becoming increasingly withdrawn. His eldest son no longer enjoyed reading about distant lands. His eldest daughter stopped playing the piano. His youngest son still slept by the window every night, hugging the wooden horse his mother had given him. One early March morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through London's rare, thin mist, Edward opened an old chest in the attic. Inside were maps of Europe, travel diaries, and an old letter written by his wife many years earlier. In the letter, she dreamed of a day when the whole family would travel to France, admire the ancient cathedrals, stroll along the Seine River, and let the children see the wider world beyond England. Edward folded the letter very slowly. It was the first time in months he had smiled. He had decided to fulfill his unfinished dream, not to forget the deceased, but to keep his promise to her. The trip began with busy days of preparation. Leather suitcases were cleaned of dust. Spring clothes were carefully folded. Railway maps of England and France covered the dining table. A young teacher named Eleanor was invited to accompany the children on the trip. She was fluent in French, loved history, and always carried a small notebook to record interesting things along the way. The bell rang from the far end of the platform. Soon after, the long whistle of the steam locomotive shattered the bustling atmosphere. Ticket inspectors began directing passengers onto the train. The wooden carriages gradually filled, the windows reflecting the dim light of the London morning. Charing Cross Station is one of the busiest places in the capital every morning. Under its enormous iron and glass dome, steam locomotives continuously spew white smoke, filling the space with the smell of coal and oil. Hundreds of passengers jostle back and forth, from merchants, nobles, and soldiers to families carrying hopes for a new life. Amidst this crowd, the Harrison family quietly entered the station. Edward Harrison walked ahead with his old leather suitcase, a companion of many years. His steps were slow but resolute, as if each step marked a farewell to his previous life. Behind him were Eleanor, Margaret, and the 3 children, each carrying a small bag containing necessities for the long journey. For Anna, everything in the station was new. She intently observed the signs, the clocks hanging overhead, and the enormous trains resting on the tracks. From childhood to adulthood, Anna's life had mostly revolved around the neighborhood where her family lived. The outside world, which had only existed through books and maps, now unfolded before her eyes on a scale far beyond her imagination. William almost forgot the fatigue of the journey from home to the station. He stood silently before the steam locomotive, fascinated by each steel wheel, each moving connecting rod, and the powerful plumes of white steam erupting from its body. For the 12-year-old boy, the machine was not just a means of transportation, but a symbol of a new era, where humanity was gradually conquering distance through science and technology. George, on the other hand, was completely captivated by the bustling scene around him. Porters in their red uniforms nimbly pushed luggage carts through the aisles. The newsstands, bread shops, and hot tea stalls were packed with customers. The train whistles, the laughter of children, and the flapping wings of pigeons under the glass roof blended together to create an unprecedentedly lively atmosphere. Eleanor silently observed the three children. Just a few days ago, all three had been consumed by sadness at having to leave their familiar home. But the curiosity of childhood had gradually replaced the feeling of loss. That was what reassured her most. Edward paused before the railway network map hanging on the large wall of the station. The black lines stretched across England like blood vessels connecting cities. From London, the train would take them to Dover, where a sea voyage would continue across the English Channel to Boulogne in France. It would be the first time the family had set foot outside of England. In Edward's jacket pocket was all the money remaining after selling the house and liquidating most of his assets. He had carefully calculated every expense. The journey ahead allowed no room for waste. Every pound had to be used to secure his children's future. Throughout the station, farewells and reunions were a constant occurrence. Some embraced loved ones before boarding the train. Others returned after many years of separation. And there were those, like the Harrison family, leaving their old lives behind to seek a new beginning elsewhere. The bell rang from the far end of the platform. Soon after, the long whistle of the steam locomotive shattered the bustling atmosphere. Ticket inspectors began directing passengers onto the train. The wooden carriages gradually filled, the windows reflecting the dim light of the London morning. The Harrison family headed toward the second-class carriage indicated on their tickets. Their luggage was minimal, just a few suitcases and a small wooden trunk containing the books Edward insisted on bringing, believing that knowledge was the only asset that could not be lost. As the train prepared to depart, Edward paused for a moment. He turned his head to look at the city behind the glass roof of the station. In the distance, the familiar towers and factory chimneys were shrouded in mist. It was London, where he was born, established his career, built his family, and where everything he had built had crumbled. For one last look at the city, Edward bowed his head slightly as a silent farewell to the past. A few minutes later, the train began to move. The iron wheels crunched steadily on the tracks. The locomotive pulled the carriages away from the station. slowly crossing bridges and bustling London streets. Through the window, the city receded into the distance. None of the Harrison family knew exactly what awaited them on the other side of the strait. But from the moment the train left Charing Cross Station, the family's fate-changing journey had truly begun. The steam train rolled slowly through the residential areas of South London, leaving behind red brick roofs, smoke-shrouded textile factories, and bustling streets that had nurtured generations of Londoners. Through the window, the city gradually faded into a gray mist, with only the church spires and towering chimneys visible on the horizon. The second-class compartment wasn't very large, but it was clean and tidy. The seats were upholstered in dark brown velvet, and above them were oak luggage racks. Morning light filtered through the windows, reflecting off the tiny dust particles suspended in the air. Edward set his suitcase down on the floor and sat by the window. He took an old notebook from his coat pocket and carefully checked his remaining money and travel itinerary. After years as a merchant, his meticulous record-keeping had never left him. Every pound, every leg of the journey, every expense was carefully calculated. He understood that the future of his entire family depended on this careful planning. Opposite him, Eleanor silently observed the three children. Anna's eyes remained fixed on the scenery outside. The suburban fields were gradually replacing the densely packed streets, offering a scene completely different from central London. Oak trees were turning yellow, sheep grazed peacefully, and small villages appeared and quickly disappeared behind the train, which was speeding along at an increasing pace. William watched the train's movements with fascination. Each time the locomotive blew its whistle, he listened intently to the sound of the iron wheels rolling on the tracks. The steel bridges, signal stations, and telegraph poles along the route fueled his growing curiosity. To William, the world unfolded like a giant machine, each part operating on its own principle. George, meanwhile, quickly befriended the scenery outside the window. He enjoyed counting the horses running across the meadow, the windmills in the distance, and the flocks of birds constantly gliding across the sky. Sometimes he pressed his face against the glass, leaving streaks that Eleanor would gently wipe away with her handkerchief. Around mid-morning, the train crossed the Kent Plains, known as the Garden of England. Apple orchards, pear groves, and hop fields stretched to the horizon. The rare autumn sunlight, filtering through thick clouds, created a peaceful scene, a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle of London just hours before. As the train slowed to pass a small station, Edward saw farmers loading crates of apples, sacks of wheat, and milk into freight cars. These trains carried not only passengers but also agricultural produce, letters, and goods across the country. The railway system had transformed England in just a few decades, connecting remote countryside areas with major cities in ways his father's generation could never have imagined. Around early afternoon, the train stopped at Ashford Station to refuel the locomotive. Passengers were allowed to disembark and rest for a few minutes. White steam rose from the engine as workers connected large pipes to the water tanks. The smell of burning coal mingled with the smell of hot metal, creating a very distinctive scent of the industrial age. Anna walked closer to the railing. The sea at that moment was like a giant mirror, changing color with the sky. On the horizon, the last rays of sunlight painted the entire space a brilliant orange, then gradually turned to a deep purple. She opened her small notebook. Under the oil lamp light, the words appeared neatly written. My first day leaving England. The sea is bigger than I ever imagined. After leaving the bustling harbor, Edward decided to take his family for a walk along the coastal road before boarding the ship. He wanted the 3 children to have one last chance to see England before leaving their homeland. The cobblestone road ran along the edge of Dover's famous white cliffs. The sea breeze was stronger now that the buildings and warehouses had left their shade. Each gust carried the salty scent of the ocean, rustling through their hair and causing their coats to flutter gently. The cries of seagulls echoed in the sky. Dozens of white birds circled in large groups before suddenly swooping down to the water, then spreading their wings again to fly away on the sea breeze. Below the cliffs, white-crested waves continuously crashed against the rocks, creating a deep, rhythmic sound like the ocean's breath. The white foam dissipated and was quickly carried away by the next wave. Anna stood silently at the water's edge. Gentle waves lapped against the pebbles and then receded, leaving streaks of water glistening in the sunlight. In the distance, the sea stretched to the horizon, where the sky and ocean seemed to merge into one. Eleanor opened her small notebook. She recorded the shape of the white cliffs, the color of the sea in the afternoon light, and the incessant cries of seagulls in the air. For her, every place possessed a unique beauty that books could not fully describe. Edward walked closer to the water's edge. He bent down, letting the first waves touch the tips of his shoes. The icy water carried the breath of the English Channel. On the other side of that sea lay France, and further beyond, countless lands his family knew only from maps. He looked up at the horizon. Small sailing ships were just white dots in the ocean, while a few steamships slowly approached Dover, leaving long trails of black smoke behind them. The sun began to set. The golden-orange light cast a shimmering, metallic sheen upon the sea. The white cliffs also turned a pale yellow, reflecting the setting sun and creating a scene that was both majestic and peaceful. No one spoke a word. Each person silently gazed at the sea before them in their own way. It was more than just a beach. It was the final boundary between their old lives and a new journey. As the last rays of sunlight faded behind the horizon, a long whistle from a steamship outside the dock echoed through the stillness. The sound reverberated against the white cliffs, spread across the sea, and then faded away on the wind. Edward turned slightly. It was time to return to the docks. Tonight, as the ship left Dover, England would gradually disappear into darkness behind it, while the Harrison family would embark on their first voyage across the vast waters of Europe. The ship's horn sounded a second time, deep and drawn out, echoing across Dover Harbor. The setting sun was giving way to the deep blue of twilight. Gas lamps began to be lit along the pier, reflecting on the rippling water. The Harrison family returned to the boarding area. The crowd of passengers was much larger than when they had left. Merchants carrying large leather suitcases, ladies in long dresses, families with young children, and sailors returning from vacation were all lined up neatly before the deck entrance. On deck, the sailors were performing their final tasks before departure. Some checked the mooring ropes, others secured the cargo containers, and still others cleaned the windows of the wheelhouse. Each movement was quick and precise, indicating they had performed the task hundreds of times. Red brick warehouses stretched along the harbor. Further on was the train station, where the train had arrived just hours before. On the white cliffs behind the city, the last rays of sunlight lingered like a thin strip. A strong wind blew in from the open sea. The British flag atop the mast fluttered in the wind. The ship's bells rang in short bursts. The sailors quickly took their positions. The anchor lines began to be drawn in loops. The thick, wrist-sized ropes slowly detached from the wooden posts on the pier. A long whistle sounded. The sound was so powerful that the seagulls perched on the roof of the cargo hold simultaneously took flight, circling in large circles in the darkening purple sky. The steam engine started. A steady rumble of vibrations emanated from deep within the ship's hull. Large waves appeared on the water behind the ship, spreading across the harbor. The ship stirred slightly. At first, it was just a very faint, almost imperceptible sensation. But within seconds, the distance between the ship's side and the pier grew larger. The Dover began to recede. The figures of those standing to see them off on the dock gradually became smaller. The lights along the harbor lit up one by one, reflecting shimmering golden streaks on the water. Edward stood silently by the railing. He gazed intently at the white cliffs receding from the ship. That was the last image of their homeland his family would carry with them throughout their journey. No one knew exactly what awaited them on the other side of the English Channel. But as the ship headed out to sea, leaving behind the lights of Dover, a completely new chapter in the Harrison family's lives officially began. Ahead lay the night of the ocean, and beyond, the European continent with its lands, cultures, and challenges they had never imagined. William walked along the deck. He carefully observed every detail of the ship. The auxiliary rudders, the steel winches, the copper pipes running along the hull, all fascinated him. Far from the bow, columns of white steam continuously escaped from the pressure valves and quickly dissipated into the night. A mechanic emerged from the engine room door. His clothes were covered in coal dust, his face glistening with sweat despite the cold sea breeze. In an instant, the door opened, and the bright red flames from the boilers inside shone out, revealing the enormous flywheels spinning continuously. Anna walked closer to the railing. The sea at that moment was like a giant mirror, changing color with the sky. On the horizon, the last rays of sunlight painted the entire space a brilliant orange, then gradually turned to a deep purple. She opened her small notebook. Under the oil lamp light, the words appeared neatly written. My first day leaving England. The sea is bigger than I ever imagined. George almost lost track of time. He enjoyed watching the white waves being cut in two by the bow of the ship, then curling into two long streaks of foam running along the hull. Every time a seagull flew by, he followed it with his eyes until it disappeared into the darkening sky. Eleanor leaned lightly against the railing. Her gaze was fixed on the eastern sky. The first stars had appeared. Far from the city lights, the sky over the sea became much clearer. Constellations appeared one after another, reflecting brightly on the dark water dot. The ship continued south. The land was no longer visible behind them. Neither was the French coast ahead. All around them was the sea. Night gradually enveloped the entire English Channel. Throughout the night, the ship sailed through the English Channel in relatively calm seas. As dawn broke, the first rays of sunlight shone on the water, signaling that new land was very close. From the deck, the Harrison family watched the French coastline gradually emerge from the morning mist. Lighthouses, piers, and fishing boats began to become more visible as the ship entered the harbor. And so the first leg of the Harrison family's journey came to an end. From England, they had crossed peaceful countryside, reached the port of Dover, crossed the English Channel, and officially set foot in France. Each mile not only took them away from their homeland, but also opened up a vast world with countless new things awaiting them. For Edward, this was the beginning of a promise to bring his children a better future. For Eleanor, this journey was a boundless learning experience. And for Anna, William, and George, each day would be a valuable memory and a precious lesson. But this was only the beginning. Ahead of them lay the vastness of Europe, with its magnificent landscapes, diverse cultures, and challenges that would gradually change the lives of the entire family. In the next installment, the Harrison family will embark on a journey of discovery through France. They will travel through ancient cities, peaceful villages, and vast fields, becoming acquainted with a completely new culture. Alongside the breathtaking scenery, they will also face the first challenges of life in a foreign land. These challenges will help the family bond and grow as they explore the world. If you enjoyed this story, continue to follow the Harrison family in the following chapters of A Journey Beyond the Border. The journey has only just begun, and many more exciting things await.